Hello and welcome back to this Library of Ruina series. In this video, we'll be taking on the Index Proselytes and the Smiling Faces. These fights have some extremely strong cards, so let's get started. The Index Proselytes follow the will of the Prescript and have a unique targeting mechanic where they all target the same librarian. This, combined with the Grace of the Prescript passive, makes it so that you're somewhat likely to lose the librarian during this fight. Regarding Grace of the Prescript, the enemies will try to use pages that have the damage type that's getting boosted. Now let's go over their cards. Faith is pretty bad, barely outrolling Gigigig, but it doesn't even restore light. Sense Quarry is also quite bad. Its rolls are abysmal unless you have 7 or more pages in hand, in which they become slightly above average. Having 7 pages in hand isn't the easiest task to achieve, so this page is almost never worth running. Proselyte's Blade is a bit better, but falls into the same trap as Net in the Backstreets. Its rolls are slightly above average, but reduce the effectiveness of the rest of the pages, so it's only worth using in very specific areas. To where the Prescript points is a pretty good page. When singleton, it has a very respectable roll range. Combined with dice type consistency makes this a strong option in any pure singleton deck. Undertake Prescript isn't as good. Its dice average is well lower than Creek, and the Pierce die is fairly weak. In the end, it's a side grade to Creek, but it feels like a downgrade. Execute is the singleton option for slash focused decks. Its first die rolls extremely high, but the second die is a little weak. To me, this is the best of the 3 options, but all of them pale in comparison to Will of the Prescript. This is the main reason to run singleton, and in my opinion, the 3rd best card in the game. Drawing 3 cards for 1 page removes the need for other page draw cards, and the roll average isn't that bad. This isn't auto-include in every singleton deck. Unfortunately, the index pages don't have speed, so they aren't worth using. However, singleton becomes a dominant archetype for most of the rest of the game. These are some examples of how you could build some singleton decks in each damage type. Right now, the blunt one is the best by a decent margin and gets better after the next reception. Pierce is in the middle of the pack, and Slash is the weakest due to not having many good slash options. Finally, regarding the index passives, Skim Prescript is fine if you only have 1 point left, being half the cost and effective battle ready, but I personally really dislike Grace of the Prescript as it gives you a lot of deck building restrictions and also limits your options during battle. I'm of the mind that your passives should work for you, not the other way around. Anyway, let's move on to the next reception, the Smiling Faces. This reception introduces the Smoke archetype. This debuff increases the damage you take by 10% per stack of smoke you have up to 10. If you have 9 or more stacks, your dice gain 1 power and you lose 1 stack per scene. However, the Puffy Broom passive that all the enemies have make it so that instead of taking more damage, they deal more damage. Smoke is treated like a downside, and so the cards that give it to the user have higher than average rolls, which makes this a very strong archetype. Smoking Pipe has the same average roll as Gigigig, is easier to cast, and is more focused on its block die, but lacks an offensive die, and the evade die is quite weak, so it will rarely evade. Inhale Smoke has slightly above average rolls, and can give up to 7 smoke to the user, but it falls into the pit of being a cheap card that doesn't draw cards or restore light, so it's a bit hard to justify using, but it's the cheapest way to get a ton of smoke in a hurry if you're into that. Hidden Blade has slightly higher rolls than Inhale Smoke, but instead of giving smoke, if the user has smoke, it consumes some of it to boost the power of its dice by 2. This page can pack a punch, but if you're running a smoke deck, you generally want to have as much smoke as possible, so this runs somewhat counter to the archetype. It requires a bit of build around and still falls into the trap that Inhale Smoke does, but its raw power can mostly make up for it. Flesh Flay is similar. Its average roll is 0.25 lower for 1 extra light, but it can inflict up to 6 bleed by itself on a target with 10 smoke. This page is used in a few cheese strats that stack tons of bleed, but other than that, I don't really see much use for it. This is very unlike Trace of Fumes, which has a 0.5 lower average roll compared to Creep, but inflicts up to 3 smoke, which is relevant. This is a much better side grade compared to Undertake Prescript, and is what I use in my blunt singleton decks alongside Creek. Deep Drag is the smoke version of strong offensive, weak defensive 3-cost cards. It inflicts 7 smoke and draws a page, so it's a consideration in blunt decks, but the evade die can low roll and screw you over, so be careful. Their last card is Loss of Senses. This card has a higher average roll than Repressed Flesh, can draw pages, and inflicts some nasty debuffs, but lacks the counter die and can situationally do nothing. If you're in a smoke build, then this card is one of the best ones, but if not, then it's just alright. The named enemies have decent passives, with Wang being the best, but you generally want to put all of the passives into one librarian. Whether it's one of the Smiling Faces or a different librarian, Smoke is one of the strongest archetypes in the game. In the next video, we'll be finishing the rest of Urban Nightmare. I'm not sure if I want to keep making videos for the abnormalities, as they get less traction and I also just don't enjoy making them nearly as much. Let me know what you think in the comments. In any case, I'll see you soon, and as always, thank you for watching.